Okay, welcome math friends. Today we're going to look at solving equations. The concept that you need to understand about solving equations is that the whole process is to try to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign and some constant on the other side of the equal sign. That's the process. That's what we're going to be working on doing. So let's start with this equation. We have our variable. We're adding 6 to it.
And some of this is review
by itself. So
that's okay. We always need review.
Undo this plus 6 is by subtracting 6 on this side, because positive 6 minus 6 is going to give me 0. If I do that on this side, I must do that on this side. So the 6's add out. I'm left with x on the left side, and on the right side, 13 minus 6 is 7. And I can always check my answer by putting the 7 back in for x. 7 plus 6. 7 plus 6 is 13. I get a true statement, so that is correct. This time, we have a 5 and it's being multiplied by the x. So the way we undo this 5 or get rid of the 5 is by dividing this side by 5 so that those 5's will divide out. If I do that on the left, I must do it on the right. The 5's divide out. I'm left with x, and 30 divided by 5 is 6. And I can check that because 5 times 6 is 30. You get 30 on both sides, so that answer checks out. Now we've complicated the problem just a little bit because we are subtracting 9. We're also multiplying by a 2. We always get rid of the things that are being added or subtracted to the variable first. So I need to get rid of this negative 9. So I'm going to take 2x minus 9, and to make that negative 9 disappear, I need to add 9. If I do that on the left, I need to do that on the right. These add out. I'm left with 2x. 9 plus 1 is 10. Now I can get rid of this 2 by dividing by 2. Those will divide out, leaving me with x. If I do that on the left, I must do that on the right. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we get x equals 5. In this case, we have an x term on both sides of the equation and a constant term on both sides of the equation. It really is best practice to get the x terms together on the same side first before you start trying to isolate just the x variable. So I have a 4x and a 6x. I think I'm going to take and get rid of this 4x on this side. That's a positive 4x, so I need to subtract 4x. If I do that on the left, I must do that on the right. So these are going to add out, which was the whole purpose. I'm left with 6 on this side. 6x minus 4x, I'm going to combine like terms. I get 2x minus 5. Now I need to start isolating the variable, so I get rid of what's being added or subtracted. So since I have a negative 5, I'm going to add 5 so that those will add up to 0. If I do that on the right, I must do that on the left. These are going to add out. Over here I get 11. Now I'm going to divide by 2 so that those divide out and it leaves me with x. If I divide by 2 on the right, I need to divide by 2 on the left, and I get 11 over 2, which I could change to an improper, to a mixed number, or I can leave it as an improper fraction, depending on the context of the problem. Okay, here we go with another one where we've got variable terms on both sides. I have a negative 2x. I think I'm going to get rid of that negative 2x, so I'm going to take 6 minus 2x and add 2x so that those will add up to 0. If I do that on the left, I must add 2x on the right. So I added 2x here, so those will add out. I have to add 2x here. These add up to 0, which leaves me with 6 equals 9x plus 2x is 11x minus 5. Now I'm going to start isolating the x variable, so I'm going to get rid of what's being added or subtracted. So in order to get rid of this negative 5, I need to add 5 so that those will add up to 0. If I do that on the right, I must do that on the left. These add up to 0. I get 11x. 6 plus 5 is 11. Now I can divide by 11 and divide by 11. 11's divide out, and 11 over 11 is 1. And I can check that answer by plugging the 1 in for x and see if I get the same thing on both sides of the equal sign. If I do, then I got that correct. Now we're going to complicate the problem even further. Now I have multiple variable terms on each side and multiple constant terms on each side. So the first thing I'm going to do is get everything together. I'm going to get these a terms together. 5a and 2a is 7a. Negative 2 and positive 4 is plus 2. On the right side, 6a minus 4a is 2a. Negative 1 minus 8 is minus 9. Now I need to get the a terms on the same side, so I'm going to take this side and subtract 2a. It doesn't matter. I could take this side and subtract 7a. I typically look and see which of the variable terms are smaller and get rid of it. But either way, it does not matter. But if I subtract 2a on the right, I need to subtract 2a on the left. The 2a's add out, leaving me with negative 9. 7a minus 2a is 5a plus 2. I need to get rid of that 2, so I'm going to subtract 2, so those will add out. I need to subtract 2 from this side. The 2's add out. I'm left with 5a. And on this side, negative 9 minus 2 is negative 11. Now I can divide by 5 and divide by 5. The 5's divide out. I'm left with a and negative 11 fifths. Process is still the same. I'm whittling the equation down so that I end up with variable terms on both sides and single constants on each side. Then I start getting the variable term together on the same side, and then I start pulling things away from the variable term. All right, let's see, what are we going to do here? We have parentheses, so we know that we don't like to keep parentheses. We need to get rid of them. So I'm going to use distributive property and distribute the 3 over the 2d and over the 3. This gives me 6d minus 9. Over here I'm going to use distributive property. 4 times d is 4d, and 4 times 5 is 20. Now if you notice, we have the same situation where I have a variable term on each side, a constant term on each side. I'm going to get the variable terms together first. So I'm going to take 4D, subtract 4D. If I subtract 4D on this side, which is going to make those add out, I need to subtract 4D on this side. The 4D's add out to 0. I'm left with 20. Over here, 6D minus 4D is 2D by combining like terms, minus 9. Now I need to start pulling things away from the D term, so I'm going to, first of all, add 9 to both sides. This way the 9's add out to 0, and I'm left with 2D. 20 plus 9 is 29. Subtract 2, or I'm sorry, divide by 2. Divide by 2, the 2's divide out. I'm left with D equals 29 over 2. Oh wow, look at this one. Here we've got a bunch of variable terms, we've got some parentheses, but the process is still going to be exactly the same. I'm going to first of all distribute a negative 1 over each term in the parentheses, so I get 4y minus 3y plus 1, negative 1 times negative 1, plus 2y minus 9 equals, distribute the 2 over each term inside the parentheses, I get 2y minus 4 minus 4y plus 2. Combine my like terms, 4y minus 3y is y, plus 2y is 3y. Positive 1 and negative 9 is negative 8. On this side, we have 2y minus 4y is going to give me a negative 2y. Negative 4 and positive 2 is going to give me a negative 2. So again, we've gotten the problem whittled down so that we have variable terms on both sides, constant term on both sides. Now I need to get the variable terms on the same side. So in this case, I'm going to add 2y to this side so that those will add up to 0. If I do that on the right, I must do that on the left. The negative 2y and the positive 2y add up to 0. I'm left with negative 2. 3y plus 2y is 5y minus 8. Now I'm going to add 8 so that those will add up to 0. I need to add 8 on this side. The 8's add out. I'm left with 5y. Negative 2 plus 8 is 6. Now I divide by 5. Divide by 5. Y is equal to 6 fifths. 6 fifths. All right. So if you'll look back, every single problem, we had the same exact process. We whittle it down to where we have a variable term on one side, and on the other, we have a constant term on each side. We eliminate a variable term on one of the sides, leaving us with just a variable term. Then we start removing the constant and then dividing by the coefficient to end up with our final answer. All right, that's our episode. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
What I've written down are the steps. The steps for solving pretty much any equation. The first thing we're always going to do is get rid of any parentheses if there are parentheses in the equation. Once the parentheses are gone, we're going to combine like terms. We're going to get all the variables bunched together and squished together and added and subtracted together on each side. Then we're going to take the constants and get them all added and subtracted together. Then once we do that, you'll have a variable on one side and a variable on the other side, possibly. If you do, we've got to have the variables on the same side. So we're going to have to get rid of the variable term on one side or the other. Once we do that, then we end up with an equation where there's one variable term and it's on one side or the other, and everything else is a constant. Then we start isolating the variable by undoing addition or subtraction first, and then multiplication or division last. Remember what we just put in our notes. First thing we need to get rid of is parentheses if there are any in the problem. This one has parentheses. So I have to distribute that -3 over the A and over the -12. Distributing means multiply the number on the outside by what's inside. Okay. And now, just as we did last week, I will be randomly calling on folks to give me answers. So do not answer unless I call on you. So when I take the -3 and multiply it by A, I get -3A. -3 times A is -3A. -3 times -12, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 12 is 36, equals 15. All right, so we have gotten rid of the parentheses. Now we need to combine like terms if there are any like terms to combine. There aren't. On this side, all of the terms are combined. On this side, all of the terms are combined. So what we have to do is focus on the variable. Focus on the variable. I don't care what's happening anywhere else. We focus on the variable. That is the only variable term in the problem. So we focus on it, and we remember our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and we work backwards. We undo addition or subtraction as we come to it. So here's my first question to someone. Miss Trexler, what do I need to do to both sides first? What do I need to do to both sides first, Miss Trexler? All right, I guess Miss Trexler's not here. All right, how about Mr. Floyd? Mr. Floyd, what do I need to do to both sides first? Mr. Floyd. Okay, almost. We undo addition or subtraction first. That 3 is being multiplied. That negative 3 is being multiplied. So we've got to undo the thing that's being added in this case. The 36 is being added to that. The negative 3 is being multiplied. So we undo addition or subtraction first. So give it another try there. What do we need to do to both sides? Yes, exactly right. We're adding 36, so I need to take and subtract 36 from both sides. You focus on that variable. You look to see what's being added or subtracted to that variable. And in this case, it's 36. So we undo that by subtracting 36. These add out to 0. So we're left with negative 3a and a positive 15 and a negative 36 gives us a negative 18. All right, so again, we're focusing on the variable. We look to see what's being done to the variable. In this case, we are multiplying by a negative 3. So, Miss Dishman, what are we going to do to both sides? We're multiplying negative 3 times the a. So, Miss Dishman, what are we going to do to both sides? All right, how about Miss Carter? What multiply by 18? Okay, y'all got to be careful. We're focusing on the variable term. You got to look at that variable term. That 18 is on the other side. You focus on the side where the variable is at. We don't worry about what's happening on the other side. So, correct. Well, almost. We're not going to divide by 3. Negative 3. Correct. That negative 3 is being multiplied by that a. We've got to get rid of that negative 3. And so we do that by dividing by negative 3. And so the negative 3's divide out. We're left with a. And negative 18 divided by negative 3 is positive 6. I'm not sure we got enough room to do these on this paper, so I'm gonna do them on a separate piece of paper. So I'm moving to number 2. Number 2 is negative 3k minus 15 plus 8k equals 10. All right, so first thing we need to look at is, do we have any parentheses? No, we don't. Do we have any terms that can be combined together? Any variables that we can put together? Any constants we can put together? The answer here is yes. I've got a k term here, and I have a k term here. I can't have multiple variables. We've got to have one variable term, and that's it. So if there are multiple variables, we got to put them together. And so just like we were doing last week when we were combining like terms, I need to put negative 3k and positive 8k together. Mr. Long, what am I going to get when I combine negative 3k and positive 8k? Correct. 5k. So that negative 3k, that positive 8k combined together to give us 5k minus 15 equals 10. Now we have a problem just like what we've been working. We focus on the variable. I don't care what's happening on the other side. I only care about what's happening on the side where the variable is at. You focus on that variable. Then we undo parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. We undo addition or subtraction first. Mr. Nichols, what am I going to do to both sides first at this point? Now that we've gotten our combined terms together, correct, we're going to add 15 to both sides because we undo addition or subtraction first. We got all the variables together, and now we only have one variable term. We focus on that variable. We get rid of the things that are being added or subtracted to it first. So I'm going to have 5k minus 15. We're going to add 15 so that that will disappear. If you do that on that side, we must do that on this side. This becomes 0. And we're left with 5k. On this side, 10 plus 15 is 25. Again, we focus on the variable because we want one variable term and we want the variable by itself. I want this down at the bottom down here to say 1k or k equals something. Okay. So let's see. How about Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown, what am I going to do to both sides now? Almost. Careful. That 5 is being multiplied by the k. That's 5 times k. So how do we undo multiplication? So give it another try, Mr. Brown. How do we undo multiplication? If that had been 5 plus k, then yeah, or 5 minus k minus 5, then we would have added 5 to both sides. But because that's being multiplied, we need to undo the multiplication. What do we need to do to both sides, Mr. Brown? Okay, how about Mr. Ganny? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Floyd. All right, so yes, we're going to divide by 5 on both sides because that 5 is being multiplied by the k. You undo multiplication by doing the opposite, which is dividing. So the 5's divide out. We're left with k equals 25 divided by 5 is 5. And so we've finally gotten the variable term by itself, constant on the other side. All right, let's look and see what happens to number 3. On number 3, we have 12 plus 2d equals 4d minus 8. 12 plus 2d equals 4d minus 8. We do not have any parentheses. We don't have any terms to combine because on this side, there aren't multiple d's. On this side, there are not multiple d's. There's only one d term on each side. There's only one constant term on each side. So there are no like terms to combine. So what we need to do is get the variable term where it's only on one side. So I have a 2d and a 4d. I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter which one you choose. This first one I'm going to do by getting rid of the 2d on this side. Since it's plus 2d, I'm going to subtract 2d so that those will add up to 0. If I subtract 2d on this side, I need to subtract 2d on this side. And the rest of the problem is minus 8. We've got to get the variable term on one side or the other. So it doesn't matter which one you pick, which side you pick. These add up to 0. That's why we did that, was so that the d term on this side would go away. All we're left with is 12. Now we need to combine like terms. 4d and negative 2d, we got to bunch those together. We got to stick them together. 4 minus 2 is 2d. We added positive 4 and negative 2, put those together and got 2d. Now we have an equation just like what we've been working. Process is exactly the same. We focus on the variable. We only look at this side of the equation. That's the only side we look at right now. So the 2 is being multiplied by the d. The 8 is being subtracted. So all of y'all, tell me what I need to do next. Okay. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Once we get to this point where there's only one variable term, then we need to undo the things that are being added or subtracted first. So since we have a minus 8, I need to take 2d minus 8 and add 8. We don't get rid of that 2 yet because the 2 is being multiplied. The 2 is being multiplied. So if we add 8 on this side, we have to add 8 on that side. So over here, those add out and we're left with 2d. On this side, we can combine like terms. 12 plus 8 is 20. Now what are we going to do to both sides? Exactly right. We're going to divide by 2. divide by 2, because now the 2 is being multiplied by that d. So we have 2 times d. We need to get rid of the 2, so we divide by 2 so that these divide out, and we're left with d. And on this side, 20 divided by 2 gives us 10. All right, let's take a look at number 4. On number 4, we have negative 13 equals 5v minus 7 minus 2v. All right, on this one, we've got to get our terms together on the other side. We don't, on this side, we don't have any parentheses, but I do have a 5v and a negative 2v on this side. Over here, there's nothing to combine together, so this is still going to remain negative 13. But I can put 5v and negative 2v together. Those can be put together so that there's only one v term. And so we have to add positive 5, negative 2, and what do we get? So I'm asking, what do we get when we take positive 5v and negative 2v and put them together? Right, 3v. Those combine together to give us 3v, and we're left with a negative 7. Now we have an equation exactly what we were looking at before, the exact same thing. So once we get to this step, everything is the same process. We're doing the same thing over and over and over again. I have a v. I focus on that v. I focus on this side of the equal sign, not the other side. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We undo addition or subtraction first. We undo addition or subtraction first. I have a minus 7. What do I need to do to each side now? All right, there are 13 people in this class. So I should be getting 13 answers. All right. Y'all are correct. We need to add 7 because you undo addition or subtraction first. So this becomes 3v minus 7 plus 7. If we do that on this side, you have to do it on the other side. Negative 7 plus 7 adds up to 0, which leaves us with 3v on this side. And negative 13 plus 6 gives us a negative 6. We're still focusing on the variable. I'm only concerned with this side of the equal sign. That 3 is being multiplied by the v. Being multiplied. How do I undo the multiplication? Y'all are correct. We're going to divide by 3. Divide both sides by 3. These 3's divide out. We're left with V. And over here, -6 divided by 3 gives us a -2. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. Okay. We're going to do one more together, and then I'm going to have you all work yourself. So let's do number 5. On number 5, we have -15 equals -3 times 2h minus 5. In this problem, we have parentheses. So equations don't like to have parentheses in them, so we need to get rid of those parentheses. So on this side, we still have a -15, but here we need to distribute -3 times 2h. So what is -3 times 2h? -3 times 2h, -6h. Correct. Now we need to distribute the -3 over the -5. Be careful. Distribute -3 over -5. So what do we get when we distribute -3 over a -5? Okay, we're multiplying, so we have -3 times -5. That gives us +15. +15. Now we have an equation exactly like what we've been working on. We have one variable term. Everything else is just a constant, a number. We've gotten one variable term. So we focus on the variable and we focus on this side of the equal sign. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We undo addition or subtraction first. So what do I need to do to both sides? What do I need to do to both sides? Okay. Yes. We have -6h plus 15. We need to get rid of this by subtracting 15. If we do that on this side, then we have -15 minus 15. Over here, the -15s add out, and we get -6h. And then we need to add a -15 and another -15. So we have -15 and -15. That gives us -30. And I'll go ahead and finish us out. We've got -6 times h. We're still focusing on the variable, and we're concerned with what's happening on this side of the equal sign. That -6 is being multiplied by h. We got rid of the addition subtraction. Now we get rid of multiplication division. That's being multiplied. We undo it by dividing. Divide on that side, divide on that side. The -6 divides out. We're left with h. And over here, -30 divided by -6 is +5.
If you liked this video, please click on the thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please click on the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when new videos are posted, please click the bell.